or inattentiveness will result in consequences. Third, follow procedure. Raise your placard if you wish to speak. Do not interrupt another delegate unless on a point of order or point of personal privilege. And even then, keep it brief and relevant. When speaking, be concise, structured, and diplomatic. Yield time properly, adhere to speaking limits, and maintain relevance to the agenda at all times. Fourth, collaboration over chaos. While this is a platform for debate and negotiation, it is equally a platform for building solutions. Use moderated and unmoderated caucuses wisely. Discuss draft and refined resolutions with clarity and purpose. If disagreements arise, address them with facts, logic, and diplomacy, not volume. Finally, this is your stage. Make it worthwhile. Participate actively, listen intently, and represent your country with pride and responsibility. Our aim is not to debate, but to demonstrate leadership, critical thinking, and respect, the true spirit of the United Nations. Let's uphold the decorum of this House and set the bar high from the very first session. Thank you, delegates. Let us begin.
The chair committee will begin roll call. Delegate of Ireland.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Sweden.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Ukraine.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Russia.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Palestine.
Present and voting.
Delegate of UAE.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Moldova.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Mexico.
Present and voting.
Delegate of India.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Pakistan.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Portugal.
Present and voting.
Delegate of France.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Austria.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Netherlands.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Turkey.
Present and voting.
Delegate of South Africa.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Croatia.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Saudi Arabia.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Singapore.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Canada.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Germany.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Brazil.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Nepal.
Present and voting.
Delegate of UK.
Present and voting.
Delegate of New Zealand.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Egypt.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Japan.
Present and voting.
Delegate of USA.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Israel.
Present and voting.
Delegate of South Korea.
Present and voting.
Delegate of Norway.
Present and voting. With that, the roll call has ended. Are there any motions on the floor? Delegate of Sweden.
The delegate of Sweden would like to set the agenda for today's meeting as enhancing international cooperation and legal frameworks to counter racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes.
All delegates in favor of the motion raise their placards. All delegates against? The motion clearly passes. Are there any other motions on the floor? Delegate of Ireland.
The delegate of Ireland would like to raise a motion to open the general speakers list with individual speakers time being 2 minutes.
All in favor of the motion? All against? The motion clearly passes. Now we will enter the general speakers list. Delegate of Ireland, you go first or last? Okay, the delegate of Ireland has chosen to go first.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates. Imagine a child walking to school, fearful because of a natural disaster, not because of a war, but simply because of the color of the skin or the name they carry. That, distinguished delegates, is the world we live in today. A world where prejudice becomes a weapon, where hatred becomes terror, where silence becomes complicity. The delegation of Ireland refuses to stay silent. Ireland has a long and painful memory of discrimination and conflict, but it also has a legacy of dialogue, reconciliation, and peace building. And it is with that legacy that I speak today. Ireland has taken significant steps to address racism and hatred within its borders. Through the National Action Plan Against Racism 2023 to 2027, the government has focused on education, policy making, and accountability for hate-based crimes. The recently enacted Criminal Justice Hate Offences Act 2024 strengthens penalties on crimes motivated by hatred towards particular groups. Moreover, Ireland's Equality and Human Rights Commission actively promotes awareness and supports victims, turning empathy into effective protection. Esteemed delegates, racism is not just an attack on individuals, it's an attack on the very fabric of humanity. Let us ensure that our voices here today become more than just speeches. Let them become the beginning of collective action. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
The delegate of Sweden.
350,000. That's not the price of a luxury bungalow or a Ferrari car. That is the number of people killed by racial hatred in the past decade. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not simply centuries ago. That is humanity today. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, we, the Kingdom of Sweden, know the pain of discrimination. We still remember the cries of the mothers whom the troll had in school attacked. The entire nation of Sweden took a pledge that day that no one in our country would ever feel the pain of discrimination ever again. And we urge every single delegate sitting here to take that same pledge with us together today. In 2022, 4,788 hate crimes were reported. Over 55% of them racially motivated. Yet, only 213 of them went on to trial. And that is why Sweden says enough is enough. It is time that we impose a global rulebook on racism enforced under the UN Charter. It is time that we criminalize the countries who betray this UN Charter in the International Criminal Code of Justice. Let the nations unite and share information. Let the nations unite and share information because what can't be managed can't be saved. Let justice replace indifference. Let action replace apology. And let hope replace fear. For every child of every color in every nation. As the late Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld once said, for Sverige är den for one day, friend. For Sweden with the times, the world peace. Thank you, and back to you, Chair.
The delegate of Ukraine.
Hatred anyway is a threat to justice everywhere. Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the delegation of Ukraine speaks today as a voice for every mother who has buried her son not because of war, but because of hate. For every child who sleeps with fear in their heart, not of monsters under their bed, but of people who see the color of their skin or the sound of their accent and decide it is reason enough to harm them. Ukraine condemns racially motivated terrorism in all its forms, whether it's the color of one's skin, the language they speak, or the place they pray. No human being should live in fear. In May 2025, reports emerged that dozens of Rohingya refugees, including some officially registered, face expulsion, mistreatment, detention, seizure of documents, fueling accusation of xenophobia. By September 2025, xenophobic sentiments and harassment also increased against Ukrainians abroad, especially women and children. The Ukrainian house in Warsaw also confirmed many incidents. Some Ukrainian refugees now avoid speaking their language in public out of fear. Ukraine calls for international protection for all refugees, clear anti-xenophobia measures and multilateral cooperation to ensure refugees are safe and supported. Stronger hate crime laws, international coalitions to counter online extremism and education that teaches empathy. Delegates, Delegates, this is not a political issue, it's a human one. Delegates, this is not a political issue, it's a human one. Let us take the action before another child becomes the casualty of silence. Let us build a future where no one is hated for who they are and no one is alone in the pain. Let us remember the smallest act of kindness is louder than the loudest act of hate. Over to you, Chair.
The delegate of Russia.
تبلاني ببجدايتم تول كسوت سباسوبين النيات. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the Russian Federation stands firmly against all forms of racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes. Our nation knows, perhaps more than any other, the cost of hatred. We remember the struggle against Nazism, not as a history, but as a warning. Russia believes in cooperation, not confrontation. Every year we submit to the assembly the resolution on combating the glorification of Nazism. Because no ideology built on racial superiority should ever find shelter in our world again. Domestically, our laws impose severe penalties for hate crimes, while community and youth programs nurture understanding amongst our nearly 200 nationalities. But today, the battlefield is not only on the streets, it is also online where hate spreads like wildfire. Russia calls on the international community to create a legal framework to combat online extremism. Let us remember, when nations stand together, light prevails. Delegates, from our pain, our purpose, from our past, our pledge to never let the dark return. Thank you. Over to you, Chair.
The delegate of Palestine.
One apple fell and the world discovered gravity. So many bodies, yet humanity remains in the shadows. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. The delegation of Palestine is not here to merely speak, it's to remind the world of its conscience. The people of Palestine have bled under the pressure of injustice, crime, and racism for far too long. Since October 7, 2023, 61,000 Palestinians have been killed, 155,000 injured, and 100,000 tons of explosives detonated in Gaza, wiping out 2,200 families. It is not conflict, it is not politics, it is racial cleansing. It is injustice served on a silver platter with indifference and impunity. It's children who starve, women suffer, and men who dig in the dust not for weapons or food, but for the remains of their loved ones. As the delegation of Palestine, we demand a better legal framework. We demand a UN-led task force, and we demand to counter hate at its very roots using digital accountability. Honorable delegates, neutrality in the face of oppression is not peace, it's participation. The silence has gone for far too long. Back to the chair.
The delegate of the United Arab Emirates.
The delegate of India would like to raise a point of personal privilege to use the washroom.
You may.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Good morning, all delegates. The delegation of the United Arab Emirates is honored to address this assembly on the crucial matter of enhancing international cooperation and legal frameworks to counter racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes. These acts of intolerance not only target individuals and communities, but also undermine global peace, security, and human dignity. The United Nations Global Terrorism Strategy reminds us that terrorism cannot be defeated by states acting alone, while the International Convention of Elimination of All Racial Discrimination, 1965, calls us to reject hatred in all its forms. The UAE fully supports these instruments and urges universal implementation. At the national level, UAE declared 2019 the year of tolerance and continues to advance through intercultural understanding, such as the Hedia Center for Countering of Violent Extremists and the Abrahamic Family House in Abu Dhabi. The UAE urges all states to unify laws against hate crimes and ensure justice for victims, building a more safer and inclusive world. Thank you. Back to the chair.
The delegate of Moldova.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and fellow delegates. In 2019, a man entered a mosque in Christchurch, New Zealand. Within minutes, 51 people, men, women, children were killed simply because of their faith and ethnicity. The delegation of Moldova would like The delegation of Moldova recognizes the critical importance of enhancing international cooperation and strengthening legal frameworks to counter racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes. As a country that has faced ethnic tensions since its independence in 1991, including the Transnistria conflict and ongoing regional instabilities, we have faced the dangers of discrimination and radicalization firsthand. We are actively involved in OSCE and Council of Europe efforts against hate crimes, the UN Office of Counterterrorism, plus UNHCR and EU partners to protect vulnerable groups. So Moldova asked this assembly, how many times will we say never again and still watch it happen? How many meetings, how many moments of silence before we realize that silence itself is the loudest weapon of all? Moldova asked this assembly, will you stand with justice today or answer your silence to the victims of tomorrow? Back to you, Chair.
The delegate of Mexico.
Delegate of Sweden, you have the floor. The delegate of Sweden would like to raise a point of order against the delegate of Moldova for using personal pronouns.
Thank you, delegate. It is noted. Delegate of Mexico, the floor is yours. Delegate of Brazil.
The delegate of Brazil would like to raise a personal privilege to go to the washroom.
Granted.
We rise, we rise, we rise to the fight for justice, for truth, and for what is right. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, a very good afternoon to one and all present here. In a small indigenous village in Oaxaca, a teacher said, our colors are not what divides us, they are the shades of our strength. Mexico, the 13th largest nation and the second largest economy in Latin America, carries this truth proudly. Globally, over 100,000 hate crimes were recorded in 2022, while 25% of indigenous people, Mixtec, Zapotec, and Maya, still face discrimination. Mexico proposes data sharing through Interpol, early warning systems, and universal jurisdiction to ensure no perpetrator escapes justice. Mexico calls upon all the nations to turn cooperation into protection and diversity into strength. As we say in Mexico, justice is grown where equality is watered. Let us water it together. Thank you. Back to the Honorable Chair.
Next, the delegate of India. The floor is yours. Delegate of South Africa. The floor is yours for a minute.
The delegate of South Africa would like to raise a point of personal privilege stating that he is a motion.
Delegate, the point of personal privilege is denied for now.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Good afternoon, fellow delegates. We, the Republic of India, the country with the fourth largest economy, second largest army, and home to the best cuisine on earth, stand here to address a grave issue. As a diverse nation, India has faced both racism and hate crimes, and we are here to ensure that no other country suffers the same. We call upon all delegates to strengthen international laws so that our dark past does not overshadow a brighter future. And as always, India believes in actions over words, proven by our international efforts against this menace. At the UN Global Security Council tenure of 2021-2022, India had chaired the Counter-Terrorism Committee and had highlighted how terrorism feeds off of racist and extremist narratives, both online and offline. At the UN Global Counter-Terrorism Strategy, India has been an active contributor since its adoption in 2006 and has repeatedly emphasized to combat terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, including religious and racially motivated attacks. Just as India's cuisine blends many flavors into one harmony, let us blend our efforts into one global resolve. Stronger than hate, united against terror. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Next, we call upon the delegate of Pakistan.
अगर नफरत हर जगह फैल गई तो इंसान जिएगा किधर जनाब? Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, Pakistan firmly condemns all forms of hate crime, terrorism, and racially motivated hate. These acts are not isolated incidents but are global threats that erode social cohesion and human dignity. We urge this assembly to strengthen international cooperation and ensure that no hate of terror or hate goes unpunished. Pakistan stands as a signatory to the International Convention of the UN's Durban Declaration and Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Domestically, we have enacted laws to criminalize incitement to hatred, such as Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016 and Supreme Court directives enforcing minority representation quota. A stronger UN monitoring of racially motivated terrorism is much needed. Together, through collective action and compassion, we can build a better world where diversity is celebrated. Before concluding, the delegation of Pakistan would like to say Pakistan is just a sweet spot for tourism, not terrorism. Back to you.
Delegate of France, the floor is yours. Delegate of UAE.
The delegate of UAE would like to raise a point of order against the delegate of Pakistan for the usage of personal pronoun.
Delegate, it is noted. Uh, Delegate of Portugal. The floor is yours, sir.
Honorable Chair and esteemed
Delegate of France. It is the delegate of Portugal.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, racism, when weaponized into hate crime, is not just a mere attack on individuals. It is an attack on humanity as a whole. It seeks to divide what the United Nations stood to unite. The delegation of Portugal stands firmly against such threats to establish peace, dignity, and democracy. At home, Portugal has enshrined to protect its criminal code, Article 240, which makes incitement to racial hatred and hate-fueled violence as a crime which is punishable by law. Internationally, Portugal has ratified all United Nations counter-terrorism conventions. It has worked alongside the European Union and United Nations to battle extremism and intolerance. This reflects a principle we hold dear. Justice must not stop at borders. Justice must not stop at borders. But mere words are not enough. Portugal urges this assembly to act, to harmonize legal definitions of hate crime, to bring in UN-powered judiciary system. Portugal envisions a world where diversity is not a weakness to be exploited by extremists, but a strength that unites us against them. Let the voice of hate be drowned by the chorus of humanity. Thank you, and back to you, Chair.
Next, we have the delegate of France. Delegate of New Zealand.
The delegate of New Zealand would like to raise a point of order against the delegate of Portugal for using personal pronouns.
Delegate, the point of order is noted down.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, on the behalf of the French Republic, the delegation thanks the Chair for this opportunity to address the Assembly. The French Republic would like to begin with a quote from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. France is deeply concerned about the rise in racially and religiously motivated terrorism and hate crimes which threaten not only individuals but also the values of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The French Republic strongly condemns such acts and believes that strong international cooperation, legal frameworks, and preventive programs are essential. Through education and accountability, we protect diversity and deny hatred in any safe space. The concrete steps taken by the French are criminalizing Holocaust denial, incitement to racial hatred, strengthening anti-terrorism laws after 2015, addressing racially motivated crimes, the reinforcement of Operation Sentinel this year, enhancing the protection of our citizens. As Desmond Tutu said, if we are silent in the faces of injustice, we have already chosen the side of the oppressor. With this, France will not remain silent. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Delegate of South Korea.
The delegate of South Korea would like to raise a point of personal privilege for a national emergency.
The delegate is granted. Next, we have the delegate of Austria.
Terrorism does not begin with weapons, it begins with hate. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, the delegate of Austria stands before this committee with an unwavering conviction that racially motivated terrorism is not a spontaneous act of violence, but a systematic attempt to fracture humanity at its core. Austria has witnessed this darkness firsthand, from the Vienna terror attack of 2020 to the foiled far-right extremist plot in 2023 and the Gulag stabbing in 2025. These tragedies remind us that hatred, once ignited, knows no borders. In 2024, Austria recorded
It's really equality and justice. Netherlands has taken countless steps to prevent this. Articles 137C and 137D of the Dutch Penal Code illegalizes inciting hatred. More recently, in 2025, a new hate crime law allows sentences to be increased by one-third if a crime is committed with discriminatory intent. Despite this, challenges remain. 3,301 hate crimes were reported, but only 97 prosecutions followed. 1.6 million residents, or 11% of our population, reported being discriminated against. Anti-Semitic incidents rose to 421, a new high. This is why Netherlands invests in education, prevention, and dialogue to build trust and cohesion between the people. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Netherlands continues working with international partners to ensure human dignity prevails. Back to the chair. Next, we have the delegates of Turkey.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, we need to be direct about a serious problem. UN reports show that nearly 20% of all hate crimes worldwide are fueled by racism. Think about that. That's a large number. And it truly damages our communities, makes people feel unsafe, and hurts the most vulnerable amongst us. The delegation of Turkey is convinced that we need to work better together internationally. We need clearer rules and stronger cooperation to beat this. Now, Turkey hasn't just talked a good game, we've been acting. At home, we've made our laws tougher so our justice system can handle these situations properly. We're partnered with groups like UNODC and Interpol by sharing key information so they can help build capacity to fight these attacks. We've also done specialized training for police and law enforcement so they can stop these racist incidents before they even happen. Delegates, it is incredibly crucial that we all share what we learn. We need to have open and honest conversations with each other because no country can fight this alone. So I urge every member state here to join this fight, to work side by side to keep vulnerable people safe and build lasting peace and stability in the world. Thank you. delegate of France would like to raise a point of order against the delegate of Turkey for using personal pronouns.
Delegate, the point of order is noted. Next, we have the delegate of South Africa.
Honorable Chair Committee, distinguished delegates, we, the Republic of South Africa, firmly believe that racially motivated hate and terrorism are not just attacks on individuals or communities, but direct threat to human dignity. As a nation that has overcome the injustice of apartheid, South Africa understands deeply the devastating consequences that institutionalized racism and violence born of prejudice can have. Today, across the world, we continue to witness communities targeted because of their race, religion, or ethnicity, hated in all its forms, whether against migrants, minorities, or any community, undermine the values upon which this institution was built. And that is why South Africa urges all member states to align their legal systems to ensure that racially motivated hate and terrorism are prosecuted. South Africa stands ready to work alongside every nation to ensure that never again will any individual be targeted for their faith, for the color of their skin, or their identity. Back to the chair.
Up next is the delegate of Croatia.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. 20,000 lives was the cost, and yet it hatred consumed close to the 1990s. The homeland war was brutal, and yet the hatred faces it rapidly increases. Words are turning into violence, violence into atrocity, leaving scars for generations. Today, the same policy spreads, threatening the social fabric of every nation in this world. Social policy, shaped by its painful history, offers four priorities: to strengthen the legal framework and to have better cooperation with the United Nations, to improve victim support and data collection of hate crime trends, to improve education and dialogue, empower the ombudsperson to monitor intolerance and to ensure justice. It's not a question of if we should act, but how. Croatia chooses to learn from its past, not repeat it. Back to you, Chair.
The delegate of Saudi Arabia. The delegate of South Africa. Flourish.
The delegate of South Africa would like to raise a point of order against the delegate using personal.
It is noted.
When hate crosses borders, justice must be. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, today hate spreads faster than ever. It hides behind screen, it spreads to algorithm and fuels violence that knows no border. Yet the kingdom of Saudi Arabia shows that when a nation invests in unity and awareness, hate finds no soil to grow. To our anti-terrorism act, we criminalize every act that incites nation to our national counterterrorism strategy, we prevent extremism even before it takes root. These are not just policies, these are proof that unity, law, and vigilance work. But delegates, no nation can stand alone when they move without a passport. This is why Saudi Arabia calls for a UN global legal framework, one that unites our laws, shapes our intelligence, most importantly, hold digital platforms accountable for the hate. Because hate may travel fast, but justice can travel faster. And if hate dares to cross borders again, let it find justice. Thanks. Back to you.
the delegate of Russia for using possible pronouns.
Okay, it is noted. Delegate of Sweden.
But the Indian Sweden would like to raise a point of parliamentary inquiry. Inquiring if person to use slang.
Okay, it's not a personal pronoun.
Then won't also point of orders second now would be right.
Yes, it would be right. The delegate of Singapore.
Distinguished Chair, honored delegates, Singapore takes the matter of terror and hate crimes based on race very seriously. As a small multiracial nation, harmony is not just an idea to us. It is how we are able to exist as a society. And when? And when that harmony is threatened, our whole society can be undermined. Over the last few years, true threat has not always come from big terror groups, but they've come from individuals. Some of them get radicalized on the internet through videos and messages that push them towards extremism. We have witnessed this happen in Singapore before. And this is an indicator that no other country in the world is safe from this problem. That is why we collaborate with the UN and the ASEAN to share our intelligence and consolidate our collective defense. Of course, of course, people are concerned that counterterrorism may affect the freedom of people. But Singapore firmly believes that safety and rights go hand in hand, but saving life must be our priority. Finally, Singapore urges all to take action together. If we take action together, not just sit and talk together, division and hate will never win. Thank you, and back to the chair.
The delegate of Canada.
Thank you, Honorable Chair and Vice Chair, for the acknowledgement. In addition to being one of the world's foremost human rights defenders, Canada is known throughout the world for being a multicultural and diverse nation, living under one of the most inclusive charter of rights, and nearly 40 million residents represent people from all over the world. However, in an increasingly linked and digital age, the spread of hate crimes and extremist violence has not spared Canada. Hence, the Canadian government has taken the following combative measures, which include, but not limited to, the National Strategy on Countering Radicalization through Violence, which collaborates with communities to prevent extremist recruitment, the Canadian Criminal Code specific hate crime provisions, which guarantee total legal deterrence and accountability, collaboration with legal frameworks such as the High Commissioner of Human Rights and the United Nations Counterterrorism Office. As we often remind ourselves in Canada, a multicultural society is not just a policy, it is a promise to protect every community from hate and fear. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Delegate of France.
The delegate of the delegate of France would like to raise a motion for personal privilege requesting to use the washroom.
It's granted.
Delegate of Russia.
Delegate of Russia would like to raise a point of order against the delegate of Moldova, stating that for improper point of order against the delegate of Croatia, instead mentioning delegation of Russia.
Delegate, that is noted down.
Next, we call upon the delegate of Germany to the rise. If Norway,
The delegate of Norway would like to raise a personal privilege to make use of washroom.
Brandon.
Silence encourages the tormented, never the tormented. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, Germany is extremely concerned about the rise in racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes. History has shown us disastrous consequences of when hatred was left unchecked, a lesson we must never forget. These crimes are shared responsibility that crosses borders, laws, and generations. In 2024, Germany recorded 84,172 politically motivated hate crimes, the highest since data collection began. Of these, over 33,900 were linked to right-wing extremism, including 1,136 violent acts. Germany responds with a multifaceted approach. Prevention education with things like civic education, awareness campaigns, and community programs. Legal enforcement with laws like the IISJ that requires major social media platforms to remove clearly illegal hate content quickly with fines for non-compliance, rehabilitation and reintegration, with de-radicalization programs offering mentorship, job opportunities, and psychological support. Germany believes silence is not neutrality, and we choose to stand firmly against hate through law, education, cooperation, and action. Thank you, and back to you, Chair.
The delegate of Pakistan. The delegation of Pakistan would like to raise a point of order against the delegate of UAE for raising baseless points of order against delegates for using the phrase back to you, chair.
Delegate, that is noted down. Next, we call upon the delegate of Brazil.
Honorable Chair, respected delegates, the Federative Republic of Brazil affirms that racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes are urgent transnational threat to peace, security, and human dignity, guarded by Article 5 of our 1988 Constitution, which makes racism an unpayable crime. We acknowledge our challenges, including violence against Afro-Brazilians and the rapid spread of online extremism. These realities gave Brazil credibility and urgency in calling for stronger international cooperation. In addition, as mentioned in Brazil's position paper, we are prepared to contribute to a lawmaking framework. Two, hate crime definitions and annual UN reporting linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring accountability and long-term process. Therefore, Brazil stands as proof that diversity is not a weakness, but a strength. If racism can cross borders, then so must our unity. Together, let us ensure that hate finds no refuge in this world. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
Next, we have the deputy for Nepal.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, Subha Bihani, how many more shall die before we act? Racially motivated terrorism is not just a threat, it's a poison spreading through the veins of our global society, fueled by silence, inaction, and weak legal systems. Nepal refuses to tolerate this inertia any longer. Recent weeks have shown the youth of Nepal rise in protest, protesting against corruption, injustice, and the silencing of speech. A government social media ban saw security forces open fire. Protesters died, and free will was throttled. But gone are the days of such a Nepal. Modern Nepal calls for a unified global legal framework that identifies and prosecutes racially motivated terrorism as a separate international crime. We also advocate for a UN-led global database that tracks and monitors racially motivated hate crimes and extremist activities. As King Miranda once said, even if I die, shall my country live on. Nepal may be small in size, but our voice is loud and clear. Hatred is terrorism, silence is complicity, and delay is deadly. Over to you.
Next, we have the delegate of the United Kingdom.
Honorable, Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates, the United Kingdom stands resolute against the rising threat of racially motivated terrorism and hate crimes, a danger that now spreads not through armies, but through streets, forums, and algorithms. Though we are proud of a legacy of diversity and equality, we acknowledge that hate continues to challenge those values at home and abroad. Racial extremism is not confined by borders. It evolves online, recruits anonymously, and mobilizes in silence. How are we supposed to count a thread that no longer wears a uniform but hides behind usernames? In this response, the United Kingdom has crafted a three-point agenda. Firstly, the Global Terrorism and Counter Security Act 2019 expanded our legal definition of terrorism to include online radicalization and new forms of terrorism. Secondly, the Hate Crime Prevention Plan empowers communities to report, resist, and recover from hate-driven violence. Thirdly, with the Online Safety Act, tech companies must now take legal action for any extremist content. A recent example is the Voice 2023 plot in West Yorkshire, disrupted through coordinated online monitoring and community reporting. It showed that law, technology, and trust must work together. As Sir Winston Churchill said, the price of greatness is responsibility. Let us act with that responsibility, not just in policy, but in principle. Thank you. Back to you, Chair.
The delegate of Russia.
The delegate of Russia would like to raise a motion to suspend the general speakers list and move on to the unmoderated Congress for a total time limit of 15 minutes.
Delegate, the motion is not allowed right now. The GSL is still left. Delegate of Israel.
The delegate of Israel would like to raise a point of personal privilege requesting to make use of the washroom.
Delegate of Israel, the point of personal privilege is accepted. Next, we have the delegate of New Zealand.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, how many more lives must be lost before we realize that racially motivated hatred is not just prejudice, it is pure terror. New Zealand has always stood for peace, respect, and inclusion. But we have also seen how hate can tear through communities. The Christchurch mosque attack in 2019, which took 51 innocent lives, was one of the darkest moments in our histories. Yet, it did not divide us, it united us. It proved that New Zealand's strength lies in compassion and not cruelty. Our government turned tragedy into change. The Human Rights Act 1993 makes hate speech and racial hostility illegal, while the Te Raranga or the Weep Act, led by the New Zealand police, works with communities to prevent hate crimes, support victims, and build trust. New Zealand also cooperates with the United Nations and the Pacific Islands forums to share information and strengthen security against terrorism. Distinguished delegates, racism and hatred are not challenges for one nation alone. New Zealand believes it is time to unite the world through stronger laws, shared understanding, and respect for human integrity. Let us not wait for another tragedy to wake us up. Let us act now, together, to weave a new world where no one lives in fear because of who they are. Back to the chair.
The delegate of Egypt.
It is said that the world got freedom in 1945 when the United Nations was born. But in 2025, we remain bound. We remain bound not by chains of iron, but by chains of hatred. Not by colonizers, but by racism. Not by armies, but by terrorists who disguise hate as ideology. These forces continue to endanger global peace and human stability. Honorable Chair and distinguished delegates, the Arab Republic of Egypt stands before this assembly to address one of the most urgent challenges of our time, racially motivated terrorism and hate crime. These acts of violence, driven by ignorance, not only devastate individuals but also communities. Egypt has suffered numerous terrorist attacks targeting civilians, religious institutions, and security forces. Egyptians, like many people, have also suffered racial prejudice and stereotyping abroad. The lives lost, the families torn apart, the communities disturbed by hate serve as a reminder that no nation is immune. So, Egypt reaffirms its unwavering commitment to work with all of nations. Only through joint action and unity can the international community secure lasting peace. Back to the chair.
Delegate of Pakistan.
The delegate of Pakistan would like to raise a point of personal privilege to use the restroom.
Delegate the point of personal privilege is accepted. Next, we have the delegate of Japan.
Good morning, Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. The delegate of Japan takes the floor today to talk about a serious issue, racism and hate crimes. In the recent years, hate speech against Korean women has taken cities like Osaka, Kawasaki, and Tokyo. These incidents remind us that hatred, if ignored, can spread quickly and harm peace in a society. But Japan has acted firmly. In 2015, National Guide passed the Hate Speech Elimination Act. Cities like Kawasaki now have strong laws to stop racial demonstration. This shows Japan's belief that hate speech is not free speech, but a dangerous act that can lead to violence. However, no country can face this problem alone. Japan calls for stronger international laws and cooperation to prevent online hate and radicalization because hatred does not stop at borders. Education is also key. By promoting respect and understanding among cultures, we can prevent division before it starts. The delegate of Japan urges this assembly, let us take action, not just words. So no person anywhere in the world has to live in fear because of their race. Thank you. Back to the chair.
The delegate of the United States of America.
Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates. Racially motivated terrorism is not just an attack on communities, it's an attack on entire humanity itself. The United States stands firm in confronting this threat, both within our borders and beyond. Our nation continues to strengthen civil rights protections, enforcement against hate groups, and to cooperate globally to eliminate the extremist groups. We believe in action through stronger laws, transparent intelligence sharing, and responsible digital governance. Hate cannot be reasoned with. It must be confronted. The United States stands not just to condemn hate, but to build a world where justice stands taller than fear. Thank you, Dr. Krishna.
Delegate of South Africa. Sure, but freedom, not fear, defines the future of humankind. Thank you, back to sir.
The delegate of France.
The delegate of France would like to raise a point of parliamentary inquiry stating that is it personal privilege to drink water?
It can be used for both political washing. Mr. Tom, delegate France. Next, we have the delegate of South Korea.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the Republic of Korea has condemned every single form of racially motivated hate crimes. This isn't just any event. In fact, the UN itself has warned that there are far-right extremist attacks and they are a growing global threat, created online and from our streets from radicalization, hence ruining the lives of people. A state party to ICERD since 1978, South Korea has made racial equality its national priority. Today, more than 2.6 million foreign residents call Korea home. They're expanding safety protocols to protect those migrant workers, multicultural families, and refugees. But no country is safe from being alone. Trans democracies from North America to Europe has suffered violent extremist attacks. That is South Korea calls out these three urgent steps. First, a UN early warning hub to track hate networks. Second, harmonized laws to criminalize hate crimes worldwide. And third, a global victim support mechanism to protect those targeted. South Korea is ready to work with all countries because together we can defeat hate and build a safer, fairer world. Thank you. Back to the chair.
Delegate, proceed.
The delegate of President would like to raise a motion to suspend the judges and not to notify caucus.
Delegate, the motion is not accepted. Delegate of Norway, the floor is yours. Delegate of Norway.
The delegation of Norway does not come to this council to speak hypothetical texts. We have come to speak the reality that is burned to our national. Honorable Chair, distinguished delegates, we have seen the fire. We know we know the smell of smoke. We have seen the cost of inaction written in the names of 77 innocent citizens murdered by a single racially motivated terrorist because of their faith, because they were Muslims. This is what happens when the weapons are no longer bombs, bullets, the keyboard. When social media can connect the world, it can just as easily corrupt it. What was meant to connect us now divides us. The same tool spreads awareness now. This is not, this is not, this is not a failure of ability. This is a failure of will. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. For too long, this chamber has echoed with that silence. The Kingdom of Norway will not accept silence anymore. Delegates, fires at our doorstep, and it is time the world rose together to put down the flames of hate and terror. Thank you.
Delegate of Ukraine. Before the delegate proceeds, what is the delegate going to ask?
Delegate of Ukraine like to was a point of privilege that the hall is quite colder, so it's preferable that delegate is not uncomfortable